Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this here is Benson. So in this video I'm going to be going through 5 tips to help your chinchilla warm up to you. Now, chinchillas can't hate you really. Hate is a very complex human emotion that most animals do not experience. However, chinchillas can experience fear and chinchillas can be fearful of you, and that is normally the cause of certain behaviours. So it's normally triggered by fear. But even so, chinchillas do have their own personalities, and every chinchilla's personality is different, and some chinchillas just will not warm up to human interaction. I have several chinchillas that will not tolerate being handled, and one that will not tolerate human interaction much at all. I'm going to try and introduce you to some of those chinchillas at the end of the video, of some of my chinchillas that can't be handled and don't really like human interaction. Number 5, don't force it. I know it can be tempting to grab and pick up your chinchilla any opportunity you can, thinking that excessive exposure to handling will actually get them used to being handled. However, this rarely works and will often backfire, because if you're chasing around your chinchilla all the time that doesn't like being handled just so you can handle them to get used to it, you're actually more likely going to reinforce the fear in them, and every time you pick them up there's going to be that fear there. So don't try and force it on them, do it slowly. Number 4, do spend a lot of time with your chinchillas in and around their cage, but make sure it's on their terms. Get them used to you being in their cage, but don't approach them, let them approach you. This way you're reducing their circle of fear to let them know that you being in their cage or you being by their cage is not going to cause them harm, and eventually they will learn that they're not fearful of you being in their cage. Quite often chinchillas are quite inquisitive, so they more than likely will come over to you to investigate what you are and what you're doing. So don't approach them, let them approach you. Number 3, use positive reinforcement. Now, what positive reinforcement normally refers to is giving like treats to animals in order to get them to associate you with something good. I would avoid using treats as such, because you don't want to give your chinchilla too many treats. But you could give them their favourite bit of hay, or a toy, or a really healthy hay-based treat, or a different type of chinchilla pellet as a treat. So you can do this when they do something that is desirable. For example, if they come up to you and try to investigate you, give them a treat to let them know that actually you've come up to me and that gave me a reward for that. So yeah, that's a really good thing you can try doing, is positive reinforcement. So whenever they come up to you, give them something that they like, either a toy or, as I say, some hay or a pellet. But I would avoid giving them too many treats. Number 2, now this might seem like a fairly obvious one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Try to avoid sudden and fast movements, because chinchillas are prey animals and they will get freaked out ever so quickly if you're chasing them around or if you're moving fast in the cage, everything has to be done slowly and calmly to keep the chinchilla calm. It's a bit of an obvious one, but some people do, you know, chase their chinchilla around the cage to get them out. Now, another tip is if your chinchilla doesn't like being handled, you can actually use a dust bath or leave the door of the cage open so they can come out themselves, or as I say, use a dust bath and get them out of the cage that way if they don't like being held, rather than trying to grab them while they're in their cage, because that is going to really upset them. Number 1, when you have your chinchilla out for playtime, try to use a smaller room, especially if they're a skittish chinchilla. Wide open spaces are going to freak them out. So the smaller the room, the better. And if you sit there in the room with them, not moving much, they may well come over to you and actually climb on your legs or climb on your lap. And that way you can give them some positive reinforcement, say well done for doing that. And it just gets them used to you, and at the end of the day it's easier to get them back in their cage as well. Another tip for you is to have the cage in the same area as your playtime. So if you've got a small room, try and fit your cage in there as well, so the chinchilla can go back in their cage if they feel threatened. And that way you don't have too much hassle of chasing them about a big room trying to find them getting freaked out by wide open spaces. So I hope those tips have helped. Some of them are a bit obvious, I know, but some people don't know this stuff. So yeah. Okay, so this is Anakin and Stufa. Anakin is the white one. He doesn't like being handled, but he doesn't mind me being in his cage, and he certainly doesn't mind me when he's out and about outside playing. This is Stufa. Stufa doesn't like me in her cage, doesn't like being handled, she doesn't like me being near her. Now if I carry on being this close to her, she might actually spray me with urine, because she's that way inclined to do so. She is a grumpy girl, but I love her nonetheless. So this is Nova. Nova's another one that doesn't like being handled at all, and he also doesn't really like being out of his cage that much. I do have him out for playtime, but it has to be in a very small area, and yeah, it's quite a traumatic event for him, bless him. I love him to bits, but you cannot handle him. Can you, mate? Can't handle you, can we? So this is Titan, and to be honest with you, he is one of my favourite chinchillas, although he cannot be handled. I have to use a dust bath to get him in and out for playtime. He is quite inquisitive, as you can see, he's coming up to me now, but he just does not like being handled. And both Nova and all three, Nova, Stufa and Titan, all came from the same breeder. And they all have a very similar temperament of I don't want to be held, which is fair enough, isn't it, mate? Yes, it's fair enough.